Welcome back. This is part 2 of session 4. In this video, we'll talk about making charts and expanding beyond the basic, okay? So if you haven't already, I suggest opening Tableau and we'll begin. More as a preview of our first chart that we'll be making. It's a dumbbell chart, right? So in the first video, and then earlier in the week of this session, we talked about shapes and sizes to emphasize different components, okay, different pieces of information. And that's what we're going to do in this one, right? So we'll make a dumbbell chart, and it's going to look something like this. And we'll look at comparing two countries, essentially, is what's going to happen here, okay? All right. I'm beginning with the GBI data set that we did as our pre-work before the semester began. And so it doesn't have a lot of things that we've built out already up to this point. I suggest using it. And let's start. All right. So to build out a dumbbell chart, the first instruction says let's create a worksheet named dumbbell. So that's relatively easy. And dumbbell chart. And the next step, if we follow 1 through 11, it says create, which we've done. And that number 2, drag the category and product description to the rows. Okay, let's go here to category description. And then we need to drag the product description to the rows. Okay, drag gross profit to the columns twice. And then the next step says drag gross profit twice to the columns. So let's do that. Select the second gross profit pill and select dual axis. Okay. And next it says to right click on the axis and synchronize. So let's do that. Right click, synchronize axis. And then number 6, change one of the gross profit marks to a line and the other to a circle. So let's go to the marks. We've got 2 different ones. So let's make this one a line. And then we'll make the other one a circle. On the line mark, drag country to path. So let's go back up here to line. Let's give our country. And then on the circle mark, drag country to color. So here, change size if desired. We could, right? So come over and we could kind of make it a little bit bigger, make it a little bit smaller, which is essentially what we've made our dumbbell chart. And like I was telling you earlier, it's to kind of show and compare 2 different groups, or more, well, it's really limited to 2 by categories, right? And that's what we've done. And drag category description to the filter and select accessories, okay? All, that's okay. As I shared with you all before, I like to show my filters. So show it, and then we can come over here, turn those off, and then select accessories. And there we have it. This is more of just a personal preference thing. If I'm going to be turning on filters, right, I like to show it over here near my show me on the right side. So that takes care of our first dumbbell chart. So the next chart is called a lollipop chart. Okay, so if you're following along, I'm on page 2. And it is similar to a bar chart. And we'll see how we architect one of those. Let's create a worksheet. First step, drag revenue to columns twice. And whenever we get to this part, there's a nice description showing in your handout. We need to get our product description to the row as well, right? The materials, I believe. There it is. And you'll see as we're going to turn one of these bar charts, we're going to leave it as is, but then we're going to turn our other bar chart into circles. So that's kind of what's coming up. Okay. All right, so change the first revenue mark to bar. But before we do that, we've got to change the second revenue to a dual axis, okay? Like so. Okay. It says change the first revenue mark to bar. And then change the second one to a circle. And we can kind of see that happening, and we're going to adjust these sizes so that they jive together, right? All right. And the way that we do that is to resize it. Let's click back up here on the first one. Size. Make that a little smaller. Let's make this one a little bit bigger. And let's add our category description to the filter. We'll do all for now. And then in your instructions, we're going to select just the road bikes. Now we can go back and resize this. Let's change our bar size. That looks a lot better. Yeah. And let's change this. Okay. Good. Next, what we need to do is populate the values. Okay, and so the way we'll do that, let's drag the US dollar here to our label. Like that. And then we're going to drag it into the label on this one as well. Actually, we just want it on the label for our circles because we're going to populate. If you're following along, we're just going to put it in here. Okay. And the way that we'll do that is adjust our label like so. And the way that we do this is we'll come over here to select format, and we'll adjust our alignment. We'll center it. You're following along. And then our numbers, because we need currency. Okay, so let's do currency custom. Turn off our decimal. Let's turn on the millions. Okay. And let's see here. We need 2 decimal places like that. And so that will get us to what we're looking for. It looks like our sizing needs to be adjusted a little bit. It looks better. Okay. And if we wanted to change our color, obviously we could do that too. Let's do more colors. And let's do something like this. Let's see if you know what this officially is. That is the official color of the red, green, blue place, right? And we need to turn that into white. Obviously, if you want to change the color of the circle, we could come over here and change it to back to the blue. Or keep in mind the way that we go about changing the color of the font within our circles, or even if we had it on a bar, we'd come over here to label. Okay. And let's choose font, and then let's make that white and bold. Make it a little bit bigger, maybe. Obviously, when we do that, we gotta make the size of our circles a little bit bigger. Okay. And that completes the lollipop. And that right there completes the lollipop. Okay. The next one is called a waterfall. So let's create a new worksheet. And what we will do first is drag gross profit US dollars to row. I'm on page 3 if you're following along. And we'll drag the category description, product description to the columns. Okay. And then on step 3, it says drag profit US dollar to color. So let's do that. Gross profit. And change color palette to red, green, diverging. Okay, so let's do that. Here. And then drag gross profit US dollar to size. Gross profit US dollar to size. Important. Each one of these steps we can't pull them. We can't pull off a particular row or column. We have to keep dragging and dropping, right? So to make it to a Gantt chart, let's go to Marks and Gantt chart. Okay. On the gross profit US dollar pill on row, use the down arrow and choose quick table. So let's do that. And our other instruction is running total. And we now have a waterfall like it's depicted on page 3. We can see an escalation in categories that are not per se the highest sales, right? If we compare on our sum of gross profit. So it's important for interpretation. And we can see how that escalates. Looks like, in particular, touring bikes is our performing, or one of our products that we sell the most of, right? We get the highest gross profit off of. Before we go on to the next chart, another thing I'd like to say is whenever we interpret headings, it's important to understand this. The categorical is kind of is this first level, and then when our product description, right, is down here on the x-axis. So that's important to understand. We build out charts on our columns. I suppose it wouldn't hurt to show. if you get confused, you can also go look at your categorical. So let's pull this over here and drop it on your filter. If you kind of want to just look at your data, you're like, well, I think I'm a little bit confused. Drop it on your filter and you can kind of see, okay, yep. And we don't want to add it. If you wanted to put your product description over there too, you can see all our different categories, right? So it's aligning up. So kind of a little tidbit on the side.